Hello and good morning to you. This is Sunday morning this morning, and this is the newspaper review here on Idea TV. I'll bringing you stories from across the country as regards what exactly is happening at the state of the country, so we know what exactly is the state of the country and also see what exactly is happening. My name is Paul Oladkuko, and you're welcome to the newspaper review this morning on Idea TV. Quickly, we'll be starting off with Sunday Punch. Let's see what front pages is saying here on Sunday Punch. Here on page 3 is ADC and INEC clash over party leadership change. Also on page 4 of the Punch newspaper, we see here that minimum wage splits labor leaders. That is on page 4 of Sunday Punch. And also we see here that Wike cannot stop PDP convention, says Southwest chairman. Also on page 26, we see here that federal government bars consultants, core members from federal payroll. Also on page 5, we see here that we are tired of federal government's inaction. That is what APC, ASU, that's the Academic Staff Union of Universities, are saying. That's on page 5 of Sunday Punch. And on page 18, we see here that tears as family buries breadwinner killed by Lagos cop. And also on page 9, we see here that a new government behind my husband's travail. That is what the wife of imprisoned lawmaker is saying right there this morning. Also, we see here that retailers counter Ojulari over Port Harcourt refinery. And that is the NNPCL boss there. And also on the big story here this morning on page 3 is Fubara loyalist shun local government polls as governor eyes comeback. APC dominates election. Iba louds peaceful conduct, and Wike backs the end of the emergency rule. We should all remember that a few months back, Governor Fubara was suspended from office and was replaced by by uh, um, a sole administrator, and it's interesting to see now. And I think that by 18th of next month, Fubara is expected to resume office. But regardless, there were talks about how the legality of the election that was held yesterday, that's the local government election that was held yesterday, under the supervision of the sole administrator. And it doesn't just seem right for that to happen when even the sole administrator is not constitutional. But however, Wike was there yesterday and also mentioned how it was a free and fair election, that people came out to vote and all of that. And also he also backs that by 18th of next month, it's expected that Governor Fubara will be back in office. And also on Punch again is also a story of ASO, where throughout this week, ASU and federal government and also have been going back and forth as regards implementation of made agreements already, talking about 2009 agreement, and there was also talk about its 2021 agreement as well. But however, the federal government has said that the 2021 agreement is still in draft and has not been signed yet. But the 2009, they would work towards it to try their best to implement it. And ASU is saying that this is taking too long as it's stretching over time. And also we see the story of fresh minimum wage demand again. And that means we should be expecting in the news very soon how the labor leaders are expecting a new minimum wage for the country, basically. Quickly, we'll move on to the news paper, that is the Sunday Tribune, to see what is being said this morning on Sunday Tribune, right here on the newspaper review. Quickly, we start with the story of federal government's failure to fulfill agreements killing federal varsities. That's what ASU is saying as they raise the alarm over proliferation of varsities, and also want to extend a 7-year peg on varsity establishment to private institutions. And then also on page 13 on the Sunday Tribune is 2027 presidential election. PDP candidates will only serve one term, say Nat vice chairman. Also, still on this story, is that says also they're saying that we will fight anyone who wishes to flout agreements as power must go to the north in 2031. Also, page 11 says that can zoning presidency to the south fix PDP's problem? That's a question and I expected to be answered. Also, on page 7 is 13 Zamfara residents fled gunmen attack, drowned, 22 others missing. Also, decayed corpse of bandits victims fueling cholera outbreak in Zamfara. That's what officials are saying. Also on page 8, we see that police arrest driver with bundles of fake 1,000 naira notes in Ibadan. Currency fake notes with the numbers have also been taken to Oshogbo. That's on page 8 of the Sunday Tribune. And on page 4, we see that violence shooting rock meeting hosted by El Rufai in Kaduna. And also on page 20, we see that over 284,000 people are missing all over the world as 94,000 disappeared in 2024 alone. That is what Red Cross is saying. And on page 5, we see that fear of flood grips Northeast as governor warns of loom of disaster, seek urgent action. It's the North has been in the news for being exposed to a number of floods this year. I mean, Nimet has marked some states, and also there was a flood outlook report from the office of the vice president earlier this year as well, that broke down local governments, even down to communities and neighborhoods that we should be expecting flood this year. And most of these local governments are located in the north. Yesterday as well, the governor of Borno, that's Governor Zulum, was also in the news as regards something related, talking about how Makurdi has recovered from the flood a year ago, and they are still expecting more flood as the year goes to an end as well. And it's expected that every state governments now and also the federal government help in anticipating some actions, putting some things in place to help cushion all of this. Flood is a natural disaster that sometimes cannot be curbed, especially when it's not caused by human activities. But however, we could also do our best to ensure that when this thing comes, when they happen, we are ready for them and we are able to sweep into action quickly. And they are basically actions that are actionable and workable as well. Okay, quickly we'll move on to the Nation this morning, starting off with the story on number 4, where we see that PDP eyes consensus option at National Convention, party open to FCT minister reintegration. That's on page 4. And also we see here the story of Red Cross once again, saying that over 13,000 families searching for 23,000 missing persons here in Nigeria. That's a story from Red Cross. Also, we see that Tinubu's foreign exchange reform position Naira as export engine. That is what the Budget Office Director General is saying. That's on page 7 of the Nation. And also on the Nation as well on page 36 is Northeast government meets as they seek solution to insecurity. And police detain couples for staging fake kidnap. And also on as regards to Rivers State election, that's the big story here on the Nation. It says that Wike local government, Rivers local government pulls clears coast for Fubara's reform. That's what Wike says. Also, suspended governor's absence on election day raises concern, and also massive voters turnout in rural communities, and APC wins in first declared result. That is on page 4 of the nations this morning. It's really, really sad to see some kind of news right here in the nations. Starting from the news from the Red Cross talking about how the number of people that are missing. The Tribune also broke it down, talking about how close to 800,000 people are actually missing. Basically, they are nowhere to be found, and also it's really sad to see. It's raised the concern of insecurity, and which is also related to the news on page 86, as the Northeast government they are meeting together to look for solutions that can be done to put their states into a place of security. I mean, it's the constitutional right of the government to provide security for and also protect their citizens. So it's really expected of them to do, and it's really nice to see them do this actually. And also, we'll go on a quick break now. Once we return, we'll continue with the newspaper review. My name is Paul, and we'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back. This is still the newspaper review here on Idea TV. It's been a lovely ride so far. We looked at the Punch, also we looked at the Sunday Tribune, and also looked at the Nation. Now, moving on to Sunday Vanguard, we see here still the story of Rivers State, with Fubara returns to office in 3 weeks. That's what Wike says. Apatima's Rivers local government polls. That's on page 5 of the Sunday Vanguard. And on page 5, we see here the reason why OBJ visited Alaafin's palace. That is on page 5 of the Sunday Vanguard. Also, we see here that on page 8, it's saying that 3.2 million prepaid meter schemes suffered setback, says according to investigators. And also on page 6, we see here that Oyebanji supporters battle over 150 social media influencers in Ogun. Yewa rallies support for Isiaka. That is as regards the Ekiti election. Also on page 11, we see here that PDP to 2027 potential running mates from the north emerge as anxiety over Peter Obi, Jonathan Makinde deepens on page 11. While on page 8, it says here that Sokoto in perpetual mourn as 36 in both mishap in 30 days. 30 dead in both mishap in 30 days. That is on page 8. And on page 5, we see here that Northeast government moved to avert food crisis. Also, on the big story here, we're seeing basically the salary scales of lecturers here in Nigeria. As on page, that's on page 13. The looming strike in university, professors earn about 600,000, while senators earn 21 million. While lecturers want to shut down institution, ASU and Konoa speak on living wage, and then it breaks down the salary of each of these persons and how much they earn based on their cadre. Talking as a graduate assistant, you're earning over 100,000. A lecturer, an assistant lecturer is earning 150,000. Lecturer 2 is earning 186,000. Lecturer 1 is earning over 200,000. Senior lecturer is earning over 300,000, while a reader is earning about 400,000 thereabout, and the professor earns around over 600,000. But it's it's yesterday also they were in the news demanding for about 2.5 million naira as their salary, as their monthly salary that's for professors, and it just boils down to the fact that now they're comparing what they're earning with politicians, and it's really amazing to see how they see themselves. But regardless, it's also important that professors who have earned their rights should be paid their wages in due time, and also should be paid enough. And you shouldn't be having a story of professors being underemployed, actually, because they they are expected to be researchers, expected to bring solutions to the country. So they're as important as the politicians as well. Also, I will see the story of Fubara also crops up here, and also this time around from another angle, talking about the apathy. Over the years now, Nigeria has suffered political apathy in several elections. Talking about state election, the general election, whatever election that we're holding, including the local government election, they have always suffered apathy. In the last two elections, I think the last election was in 2023. Before that was 2019. The turnouts in 2019 was probably less than 43%. Also, same. It was less. It was even lesser again in the 2023 election. And also now again we're seeing patterns like that, patterns similar to that. And it all boils down to the question of how are political aware, how we feel to express our rights as Nigerian. Are we truly expressing our rights? Are we truly performing our duty? It is a whole long conversation as regards what exactly is causing the political apathy across the country. Talking about from state to state, and also communities to communities, people. I mean, these days, I know that there are a lot of talks as regards election and all of that on social media. But when it comes to put work to action, how many people actually do that? And that's the question that is here. And that's what we're seeing again play out at the Rivers local government polls once again. Nigerians are really not willing to express themselves when it comes to their civil duty and also vote for their leaders. Also, we see here that Northeast governors move to avert food crisis. It's food insecurity is another problem, that we're currently facing here in Nigeria, as there has been a lot happening as regards that, and also there's been a very much increase in cases of, several kinds of malnutrition. We're talking about over undernutrition, malnutrition, and also eating hunger. And all of this boils down to so people's access to food. How well are they able to access food that they eat? How do they feed? What kind of food do they also eat? It's really sad to see all of this happening, but it's very nice to see that the Northeast governments who have sworn an oath to protect their citizens and also, fend for them as well, are actually trying to avert this crisis. And also, it was also in the news yesterday about how places like Benue, Plateau, and also Nasarawa, which are basically one of the highest food production states here in Nigeria, have been faced so much with insecurity. Farmers have had to flee from their farms, and so they cannot farm here and this and that, all leading to all of this crisis. And I guess we'll move on now to the next news, which is the Sunday Times. Talking about, and let's see what exactly is happening there on the Sunday Times. On page 5, it says that my son was killed, not insane. Mother of 21-year-old Moses cries out. That's on page 5. And on page 2, flood ravaged 3 local governments in Nasarawa, kills 1, and also it destroys farmland, says NEMA. On page 7, Wike happy with Fubara Rivers Assembly returns on September 18. And on page 2, PDP presidential tickets open but will avoid same religion controversy, says Governor Mohammed. And on page 4, we see that Nigeria deserves excellent results or nothing. Minister charges paramilitary agency. That's on page 4. On page 7, it says that Budget Office admits delay in 2024 budget implementation report. That's on page 7. And also we see here that Nigeria creative economy projected to hit 13.6 billion by 2028, which is a very amazing one. And also the big story here says that why I bought arms for my constituency to confront bandits, says Katsina lawmaker. And that's on page 2 of the Sunday Times. A lot of great news here on Sunday Times, and I want to it's on one, which is that of the Nigerian creative economy. The Nigerian creative economy is one that is looming, it's big, and it's gaining audience around the world, talking about the UK, the US, everywhere around the world. It's gaining audience, and we're expecting it to it's even bigger as time goes by. And by 2028, according to this report, now we should be expecting the creative economy to is about 13.6 billion, which is a very large number, I must say. And also, there have been talks about the budget office not re- um, releasing the reports of the implementation reports for a very long time, since 2024, and really start to see. We're talking about, I mean, I was during Jonathan's era where the FOA, that's the Freedom of Information Act, was signed into law, and now we're seeing things like that. Citizens have the right to see what exactly has been done with the national budgets, and also it is their right, their constitutional right, to see and also know what exactly happened. But it's really sad to see that this has been yet to be implemented. And also in 20, also we see here in Nasarawa where flood has ravaged three local governments. I mentioned earlier, I mean, every newspaper, every national daily that we've seen today mentioned one or two things about flood, and we're seeing this again happen. And in Nasarawa, I mentioned earlier as regards how there was a flood outlook report earlier this year that broke down the local governments that we should be expecting floods here in Nigeria, and almost all of the local governments basically will experience some kind of flood. And now we're seeing this again happen again in Nasarawa on page 2, according to NEMA. We're going to a quick break now. I want to return. We move swiftly to the tech news and see what exactly is happening in tech. Okay, now moving on now here from Nigeria to see what exactly is happening around the world. This is a very good news as China introduced K visa for global STEM talent. China will launch a K visa on October 1st, 2025, aimed to attract young professionals in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, approved at a state council meeting in July. The policy is part of China's talent-driven development strategy to boost innovation and global competitiveness. The visa offers multi-entry access, longer stay, and no employer visa requirements, unlike existing Z work or M visas. It targets graduates from top universities, researchers, and also entrepreneurs in the STEM field. Application will be streamlined through digital platforms run by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the National Immigration Administration, and also Chinese embassies. Authorities are expected to clarify the age limits and also legibility before rollout. That's as regards the K visa for young STEM talent for entry. I mean, this is it's love to see, all of these Asian countries doing great things like this. Also, I read in the news some times ago about how for Japan as well, you don't have to pay for your visa upfront, and also the payment requirements is also very cheap, very affordable for people, and it's really amazing to see things like this happen. And also for Japan, if you do not if your visa gets rejected, if you're not given the visa, you don't have to pay. You really have to pay after your visa has been approved. I mean, that is very, very much wonderful, as all of these countries are looking for ways to invest more into the economy, and these are things that we should be seeing more. Also in Rwanda as well, here in Africa, they have they have waived the visa for on entry for all African countries. I mean, that's wonderful. These are how things should be done, so that to foster development, especially in places in developing countries. So I mean, it's just would just be very nice for places like Nigeria as well to follow suit as regards what Rwanda did. You could I know of Southwest the South Africa, they can all move within each other and all of that. But also we should try to expand that even across borders. We are within Africa first, and then we can now start looking at options of other countries. And I mean, Japan also is open to accepting, and they have even opened up towns for some African countries. And this is very much wonderful, as they are looking at development, and not just development, but multinational development, and seeing things from different perspectives. I guess that's all we'll be able to take this morning on the newspaper review. It's been a lovely ride so far with you. Thanks for watching. My name remains Paul. Do join us tomorrow.